Blood freezes before it hits the ground. Alira's breath comes in ragged gasps as she stumbles deeper into the cave, ribs screaming, hands numb. Behind her, voices echo hunters closing in. Her father's men coming to drag her back to a fate she'd rather die than accept. 3 days running, no food, no rest. Just the memory of those ceremonial bells and the Alpha King's name spoken like a sentence. She presses against the cave wall to steady herself. Frost explodes from her palm. Ice races across the stone in wild, beautiful patterns spiraling, branching, coating everything within reach. Alira jerks back, staring at her hands in horror. She's never done that before. The hunters' voices grow louder, closer. Panic drives her deeper into the mountain, into tunnels the elders say are cursed. Her power pulses with every heartbeat uncontrolled, terrifying, growing stronger as fear takes hold. Then she hears it. A sound from the darkness ahead. A broken whimper. Something dying. Against every survival instinct, Alira follows the sound and finds a wolf, silver-tipped and bleeding, trapped between fallen stone and ice. Their eyes meet. She should keep running. Instead, she reaches out. Hey, quick question, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you're enjoying this, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Alright, thanks again. Now let's get back to Alira and find out what happens when she realizes she's not alone in that cave. Chapter 1. The Girl in the Mountain. Snow drives sideways across the ridge as Alira Frost drags herself up the final stretch of rock toward the cave entrance. Her lungs burn. Her fingers are numb inside torn gloves. Below her, Vale Hollow glows faint and gold with torchlight, and the ceremonial bells toll slow and steady, counting down to dawn. By sunrise, one girl will be chosen, marked, claimed by the Alpha King. Alira would rather freeze. She pushes through the narrow opening into the cave, gasping as wind-driven snow follows her in. The darkness swallows her whole. She fumbles for her flint, strikes it 3 times before the spark catches on the oil-soaked wick of her small lantern. Warm light blooms, pushing back shadows that seem older than memory. The cave smells like cold stone and something faintly metallic, ancient. No one comes here anymore. Elders in the village whisper that wolves went into these tunnels and never returned, that even the moon goddess turns her face away from this place. Alira doesn't care about curses. She cares about surviving until the rite passes and her father, Merrick Voss, stops hunting her. She moves deeper, boots crunching over frost-slick stone. The walls are carved with faded symbols she doesn't recognize. Spirals, clawed marks, names scratched in a language that feels almost familiar. Drace, Varen, others she can't make out. Whoever they were, they're long gone now. Her makeshift camp sits in a small hollow, where the ceiling dips low, and the wind can't reach. A pile of threadbare blankets stolen from an abandoned hunter's cabin. A cracked clay bowl for melting snow. 3 strips of dried meat she's rationing like gold. It's not much, but it's hers. No one is deciding her future here. No one is trading her like a signature on a treaty scroll. Alira crouches beside her small stack of kindling and carefully arranges it for a fire. Her hands shake, not just from cold but from the memory that keeps clawing its way back. 2 weeks ago, standing in her father's study, Merrick's voice low and final. You will be honored to wear the Alpha King's mark. Girls dream of this. She'd looked at him and said, I'm not those girls. His hand had closed on her shoulder, tight enough to bruise. You don't have a choice. So she made one. Alira strikes the flint again, coaxing flame from the kindling. Smoke curls upward, and warmth begins to creep into the small space. She wraps a blanket around her shoulders and leans back against the stone wall, closing her eyes. The bells are still ringing in the distance, muffled now by rock and snow. She wonders if they've noticed she's gone yet, if Merrick has sent hunters, if the Alpha King even cares that his arranged bride ran into the mountains. Probably not. Men like Lucien Verrick don't chase. They command, and the world bends. Except Alira Frost isn't bending. She's about to drift into exhausted sleep when she hears it. A sound, faint, broken. At first, she thinks it's wind scraping through cracks in the stone. Then it comes again. A low, strangled whine, echoing from somewhere deeper in the cave system. Alira goes very still, listening. There it is again. Closer this time. Not wind, not rock shifting. An animal. She should ignore it. She barely has enough supplies to keep herself alive. Getting involved with an injured creature, especially in a place rumored to be cursed, is the kind of mistake that gets people killed. But the sound comes again, weaker now, and something in her chest tightens. Illyra picks up her lantern and stands. Her legs protest, stiff from cold and days of climbing. She moves toward the sound, following the narrow passage that slopes downward into the mountain's heart. The air grows colder. Ice crystals glitter on the walls, catching her lantern light and throwing it back in fractured patterns. The passage twists, narrows, opens into a wider chamber where fallen rock litters the floor. And there, wedged between a collapsed section of stone and a jagged shelf of ice, is a wolf. Silver-tipped fur matted with blood, paws scraped raw, breathing shallow and labored. Its eyes flicker open as her lantern light reaches it, and they're bright with pain and exhaustion. Illyra's breath catches. Someone drove this animal in here. She can see the marks. Claw gouges on the stone where it tried to escape, the twisted remains of an iron trap half buried in the rubble. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. The wolf lifts its head slightly, tries to shift toward her, and collapses back with a broken whimper. Illyra knows the rules. Wolves belong to the packs. Interfering with a marked or claimed animal is punishable by death. If this wolf is tied to an alpha, touching it could bring hunters down on her faster than anything. But as she stands there, frozen between logic and instinct, the wolf's gaze locks on hers. Not aggressive, not feral, desperate. She hears her own voice, rough and tired. "You're a fool, Illyra." Then she sets the lantern down and starts digging. Her fingers scrape against stone, nails splitting as she claws at the rubble, pinning the wolf. The rocks are heavy, slick with ice. She wedges an old spear shaft she found earlier into the gap and levers it, muscles screaming, until something shifts. The wolf whines again, softer now, almost encouraging. "I know," Illyra mutters through gritted teeth. "I'm trying." One more heave, and the largest stone rolls free. The wolf drags itself forward, paws scrabbling weakly, and collapses at her feet. Illyra drops to her knees beside it, hands hovering, unsure. She's never been close to a wolf before. Up close, it's bigger than she expected, all lean muscle and wild beauty even in its battered state. She touches its shoulder gently. The wolf flinches, then stills, as if recognizing she's not a threat. "All right," she whispers. "Let's get you out of here." She loops her arms under the wolf's chest and drags it inch by agonizing inch back toward her camp. It's heavier than it looks, dead weight in her arms. But she doesn't stop until they're back in the hollow where her fire still flickers. Illyra wraps the wolf in her best blanket, tucking it close to the warmth. She uses melted snow to clean the worst of the blood from its fur, fingers gentle over torn skin and bruised ribs. The wolf's breathing evens out slightly, and its eyes drift closed. She sits back, exhausted, staring at the creature she just risked everything to save. "What were you running from?" she asks quietly. The wolf doesn't answer, but its heartbeat drums steady against her thigh where its head rests. Outside, the storm that's been building all evening suddenly stops. The wind dies. The howling fades. The world goes eerily, unnaturally silent. Illyra doesn't notice. She's already curling up beside the wolf, too tired to stay awake, her fingers tangled in silver-tipped fur. She doesn't see the shadow that appears at the cave mouth minutes later. Tall, broad-shouldered, eyes glowing faint gold in the darkness as they fix on the flickering lantern light deep inside the mountain. The Alpha King stands in the snow, utterly still, and feels the bond snap into place like a chain made of fire and ice. Not to the wolf, to the girl. Chapter 2. The Alpha at her door. Illyra wakes to the sound of breathing that isn't hers. For a disoriented moment, she thinks she's back in her father's house, that the last 2 weeks were a fever dream. Then she feels the warmth pressed against her side, the rough texture of fur under her hand, and remembers. The wolf. She opens her eyes. Her fire has burned down to embers, casting the cave in deep red shadow. The wolf is still asleep beside her, breathing slower and deeper now, no longer labored. She shifts slightly, careful not to wake it, and reaches for more kindling to feed the fire. Then she hears it. Footsteps. Not the soft pad of an animal. Heavy, measured. The deliberate stride of someone who knows exactly where they're going. Illyra freezes, heart slamming against her ribs. The wolf's ears twitch, and its eyes open. But instead of growling or bristling, it lifts its head and makes a soft sound, almost like recognition. The footsteps stop just beyond the reach of her dying firelight. Then a voice, low and rough as stone grinding. Elira Frost. Not a question. A statement. Her full name spoken like a sentence being handed down. She scrambles to her feet, pulse roaring in her ears. The wolf shifts but doesn't move away from her. A figure steps into the edge of the light. The first thing she sees is his size. Broad shoulders wrapped in dark fur, tall enough that he has to duck slightly under the low ceiling. Black hair damp with melted snow. A jaw rough with stubble, and eyes golden, burning, ancient that pin her in place like prey. The air in the cave shifts. It bends around him, heavy with something she can't name. Power, authority. The scent of pine and cold iron and winter storms follows him in. Lucien Varric, the Alpha King. The man she ran from is standing 5 feet away. Elira's first instinct is to run deeper into the cave, but her legs won't move. Her second instinct is to grab something, anything, to defend herself. But there's nothing within reach. Lucien's gaze sweeps over her slowly, taking in everything. The makeshift camp, the wolf pressed close to her side, the carved symbols on the walls. Then his eyes drop to her hands. Her palms are scraped raw from digging out the wolf. And beneath the blood and dirt, faint patterns shimmer on her skin. Frost, delicate and intricate, like lace made of ice. Something changes in his expression. Curiosity sharpens into recognition. He takes a step closer. Show me your hand. It's not a command. Exactly. But it's not a request either. Elira's throat is dry. Stay back. I'm not here to hurt you. Then why are you here? Lucien's mouth curves slightly, though it doesn't reach his eyes. You're asking the wrong question. He crouches slowly, movements careful, and extends his hand toward the wolf. The animal shifts toward him without hesitation, pressing its muzzle into his palm. He runs his fingers through silver-tipped fur, and for a moment, something like grief flickers across his face. This wolf, he says quietly, was the last survivor of a pack slaughtered 3 months ago. I've been tracking him for weeks. Elira swallows. I didn't know. You saved him. Lucien looks up at her, and the weight of his gaze is almost physical. When you touched him, I felt it. Felt what? The bond. The word lands between them like a stone dropped into still water. Elira shakes her head. That's not possible. You're not what they told me you were. He straightens, and the cave suddenly feels too small. You were supposed to be just another noble daughter, a treaty signed in blood and vows. His gaze drops to her hands again, where the frost patterns are fading. But you're not. They hid you. Who? Everyone who should have known better. He steps closer again, and this time Elira forces herself to hold her ground. I didn't ask for this, she says, voice shaking. I didn't ask to be promised to you. I didn't ask to be marked like property. I know. The simplicity of his answer throws her off balance. Lucien tilts his head slightly, studying her. Do you know what happens during the rite of claiming? They bind a mate to the Alpha King. For life. They bind her will. He corrects softly. Her power. Her choices. The rite as it stands now isn't sacred. It's a leash. Elira stares at him. Then why? Because I've refused every bride the council has tried to force on me for 5 years. They thought if they offered me someone I couldn't refuse someone with a bloodline old enough to matter I'd finally submit. So you came to drag me back? His jaw tightens. I came to see if what I felt when you touched that wolf was real. He reaches out slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers brush her wrist, just above the pulse point. Heat surges through her so sharply she gasps. Not painful, not unwelcome, just overwhelming. Like lightning crawling under her skin, settling into her bones. Lucien's eyes flare gold, and his hand tightens fractionally before he lets go. Real, he murmurs. Elira's heart is racing. What does that mean? It means, Lucien says, voice rough, that you're not just Frost by name. And it means I can't leave you here alone. I've been alone for 2 weeks. You've been safe for 2 weeks. That ends tonight. He turns slightly, gaze sweeping the deeper tunnels. This place, do you know what it is? A cave. A sanctuary. One of the old ones, built by the first Alpha Kings before the council twisted the rites into chains. He points to the symbols carved into the walls. These marks are bloodline protections. They respond to power. Elira looks at the carvings, then back at him. Why would it respond to me? Because your bloodline was never meant to be hidden. He meets her eyes. And because the moment you stepped into this place, it woke up. As if to prove his point, the frost patterns under her palm begin to glow faintly, spreading across the stone floor in delicate spirals. Alira jerks her hand back, but the patterns don't fade. Lucien watches them spread, expression unreadable. Then he crouches, pressing his own palm to the stone. The frost spirals toward him, curling around his fingers like recognition. "The council will come for you," he says, voice low. "They'll send hunters, enforcers, men who follow orders without question. And when they find you, they won't drag you back gently. So what do you want me to do?" He looks up at her, golden eyes burning in the dim light. "Trust me." Alira laughs, sharp and bitter. "You're the one I ran from." "No." He stands, towering over her again. "You ran from a fate someone else decided for you. I'm offering you a choice." "What choice?" "Stay here. Let me protect this sanctuary while you figure out what you are." His gaze doesn't waver. "Or run deeper into the mountain with me, and we find answers together. And if I say no to both, then I'll leave, and you'll face what's coming alone." Silence stretches between them, broken only by the soft crackle of dying embers and the wolf's quiet breathing. Alira looks at the frost spreading across the stone, at the wolf curled beside her, at the Alpha King standing in the shadows like something out of a dark fairy tale. She should say no. She should send him away and take her chances. But when she opens her mouth, what comes out is, "How do I know you won't just mark me the moment I agree?" Lucien's expression softens, just slightly. "Because I've spent 5 years refusing to mark anyone who didn't choose me first." He steps back, giving her space. "And I'm not about to start now." The wolf shifts, pressing closer to Alira's leg, and makes a soft sound of agreement. She closes her eyes, exhales slowly, and makes the second choice that will change everything. "All right, stay." When she opens her eyes, Lucien is already moving, pulling supplies from a pack she hadn't noticed before. Proper blankets, dried meat, a small brazier for heat. "Get some rest," he says without looking at her. "Tomorrow, we start figuring out what your father bargained away when he promised you to the council." Alira wraps a blanket around her shoulders and sits back down beside the wolf. Outside, the storm that went silent earlier begins to howl again. But inside the sanctuary cave, the frost patterns glow faint and steady. And for the first time in 2 weeks, Alira doesn't feel alone. Act 3. Blood and Bargains. Morning comes cold and gray. Alira wakes to find Lucien already awake, crouched by the entrance of the cave, staring out at the snow-covered valley below. The wolf is pressed against her side, warmer now, breathing steady. She sits up slowly, bones aching from sleeping on stone. Lucien doesn't turn, but his voice cuts through the quiet. "Your father made a deal 3 years ago." Alira goes still. "I didn't know the details until recently." Lucien continues. "The council approached him quietly, offered him land, protection, a seat at their table. In exchange, he'd provide them with leverage against me. Me. You." He finally turns to look at her. They didn't just want a bride for the Alpha King. They wanted someone whose power they could control, someone they could use as a weapon, or a sacrifice, depending on which served them better. Alira's stomach twists. "What power? I'm just—" "You're a Frost. One of the oldest bloodlines tied to the northern packs. Your ancestors didn't just survive winter, they commanded it." He gestures to the frost patterns still glowing faintly on the cave walls. "That's not decoration. That's your blood recognizing a place built for it." She looks at her hands, still scraped and raw from rescuing the wolf. "I've never done anything like this before. Because no one taught you, or they actively hid it from you." Lucien's jaw tightens. Merrick Voss knew exactly what he was trading away. Alira's throat burns. She spent 2 weeks running from her father's plans, but hearing it laid out this clearly makes it real in a way it wasn't before. "The right of claiming," she says quietly. "What would it have done to me?" Lucien moves closer, lowering himself to sit across from her, the small fire between them. His eyes are serious, no longer burning gold but dark and human. "The public right the council uses now is a perversion of the original bond. It binds a mate's power directly to the throne through me. Once marked under their version of the ceremony, you'd be unable to act against the council, unable to use your magic except as they allow. You'd be tethered, a puppet, a prisoner wearing a crown." The wolf lifts its head, ears flicking toward the cave entrance. Lucien notices immediately, going tense. Someone's coming, he says quietly. Alira's pulse spikes. Hunters? Possibly. He rises in one smooth motion, moving toward the entrance. Stay here. Keep the fire low. But before he can reach the opening, voices echo up from the valley, carried on the wind. Tracks lead this way. Alpha King's orders were clear. Retrieve the Frost Girl by any means. Lucien stops dead. His expression darkens. Those aren't council hunters, he says softly. Those are my own men. Alira stands, heart hammering. You told them where I was? No. His voice is hard. But someone did. The voices grow louder. Closer. Lucien turns to her. And for the first time since he appeared in her cave, she sees something like regret in his eyes. They'll say they're here on my command. They'll invoke ancient laws and council authority. And technically, he exhales sharply, they'll be right. So you're just going to let them take me? No. The single word is a growl. But if I fight them, I'm breaking laws older than both of us. I'll be declaring war on my own court. Alira's hands curl into fists. Then I'll run. You won't make it past the ridge. Not with hunters who know these mountains. The voices are almost at the cave entrance now. Alira can hear boots crunching through snow, weapons clinking, low conversation about securing the site and binding the target. Lucien looks at her, and something shifts in his expression. Do you trust me? I don't know you. Then trust this. He reaches out, takes her wrist gently. I didn't come here to claim you by force, and I'm not letting them do it either. Alira searches his face, looking for the lie, the trick, the inevitable betrayal. She doesn't find it. All right, she breathes. Lucien releases her wrist and strides toward the cave entrance, positioning himself directly in the opening. 3 men appear through the snow. Taryn Holt, broad and scarred, carrying a heavy spear. Alden Price, lean and cold-eyed, with a bow strung across his back. And a third man Alira doesn't recognize. Younger, nervous. Taryn stops when he sees Lucien, surprise flickering across his face. Alpha King, we didn't expect. I know what you expected, Lucien says, voice flat. Turn around. Alden steps forward, careful but firm. With respect, my king, we have orders from the council. The Frost Girl is to be returned for the rite. The ceremony was delayed, not cancelled. I'm aware of the council's orders. Then you know we're bound to carry them out. And I'm telling you, Lucien says, voice dropping into something deeper, older, to turn around and leave. Taryn shifts his grip on the spear. We can't do that. You can. You will. The tension stretches thin and sharp between them. Then Alden's gaze slides past Lucien, into the cave. His eyes narrow. She's in there. Don't, Lucien warns. But Alden is already moving, darting to the side, heading for the narrow passage that leads deeper into the cave. The younger hunter follows. Lucien moves to block them, but Taryn steps in his path, spear raised. I'm sorry, my king, but the law is clear. Alira hears footsteps behind her, fast and purposeful. She spins, sees Alden and the younger hunter coming down the passage, weapons drawn. The wolf snarls, placing itself between her and the hunters. Call off the animal, Alden says coldly, and come quietly. This doesn't have to be difficult. Alira backs up, heart racing. I'm not going. You don't have a choice. I always had a choice. You just didn't give me one. Alden's patience snaps. He lunges forward, reaching for her arm. Alira's hand hits the stone wall to brace herself, and the cave explodes with light. Frost erupts from the point of contact, spiraling outward in jagged, beautiful patterns. Ice coats the walls, the floor, racing toward the hunters faster than they can react. The younger man's boots freeze to the ground mid-step. Alden's bow arm locks, trapped in a sheath of crystalline ice. The temperature in the cave plummets. Alira stares at her hand, at the frost pouring from her palm like water, and can't breathe. Outside, Lucien feels the shift in power and shoves past Taryn, sprinting back into the cave. He finds Alira standing in the center of a cathedral made of ice. Every surface glitters with frost patterns, reflecting the faint lantern light in 1,000 directions. The hunters are trapped, frozen but not hurt, eyes wide with shock, and Alira is shaking, staring at her hands like they belong to someone else. Lucien moves to her slowly, carefully, the way you approach something wild and frightened. Alira. She doesn't respond. Alira, look at me. Her eyes snap to his, and they're full of fear. I didn't mean I didn't know. I know. He reaches out, takes her wrists gently, pulling her hands away from the wall. The frost stops spreading immediately. Breathe. I can't. Yes, you can. Breathe with me. He holds her gaze, steady and calm. In, out, slowly. She follows his rhythm, gasping at first, then slower. The shaking eases. Behind them, Taryn appears in the passage, sees the trapped hunters, the ice cathedral, the girl at the center of it all. He lowers his spear. Stars above, he breathes. She's a Frostborn. Lucien doesn't take his eyes off Alira. Yes. The council doesn't know. They suspected. Now they'll be certain. Taryn looks between them, then at his frozen companions. What do we tell them? Lucien finally looks at him, and his expression is hard as stone. Tell them I've taken the Frost Girl under my protection. Tell them the right will proceed when and how I decide. And tell them. He pauses. If they send hunters into this sanctuary again, they won't come back whole. Taryn swallows, nods once, and retreats. The ice around Alden and the younger hunter begins to thaw as Alira's panic fades. They scramble free, soaking wet and shivering, and flee after Taryn without a word. When they're gone, the cave falls into thick silence. Alira sinks to the ground, exhausted. Lucien crouches beside her, still holding her wrists. You just saved us, he says quietly. I almost killed them, but you didn't. He brushes his thumb over the frost patterns still faintly glowing on her skin. You controlled it. Instinctively, yes, but you controlled it. Alira looks up at him, and something in her chest tightens. What am I? Something the council should have left alone. He releases her wrists and sits back. And something I'm not going to let them use. The wolf pads over, pressing its head against Alira's knee. She buries her fingers in its fur, grounding herself. Outside, the storm picks up again, and somewhere in the valley, hunters are running back to the council with news that will change everything. Chapter 4. Sanctuary or cage? The cave feels different after the ice. The walls still shimmer faintly with frost patterns that won't fully fade, and the air tastes sharper, colder. Alira sits by the fire, wrapped in blankets, while Lucien tends to a gash on his forearm souvenir from deflecting Taryn's spear. She watches him work in silence, the way his hands move with practiced efficiency, binding the wound with strips of cloth. You didn't have to fight your own men for me, she says finally. They weren't fighting for me. They were following orders they didn't question. He ties off the bandage. There's a difference. Will they come back? Not those 3, but others will. He looks at her across the fire. The council won't let this go. Not now that they know what you can do. Alira pulls the blanket tighter. I don't even know what I did. You defended yourself. Your power responded to your fear and anger. He pauses. The fact that you stopped it before anyone got hurt? That takes control most Frostborn don't have for years. Frostborn. The word feels foreign in her mouth. You said that like it's a title. It is. Or it was, before your bloodline went into hiding. Lucien leans back against the cave wall. 3 centuries ago, the Frostborn families were the backbone of the northern packs. They could survive winters that killed entire armies, shape ice like clay, freeze rivers with a touch. His eyes find hers. They were also impossible to control, so the council quietly removed them from power. One family at a time, the fire crackles between them. My father knew, Alira says quietly. He knew what I was, and he still offered me to the council. He thought he could profit from it. Hide your power just long enough to secure his position, then let the right bind you before you ever learned what you were capable of. And you? I didn't know. Lucien's jaw tightens. They told me I was being matched with a suitable, noble daughter. Someone politically advantageous, but ultimately ordinary. If I'd known you carried the Frostborn line. He shakes his head. I would have burned their treaty before they finished writing it. Why? Because no one should be forced into a bond meant to erase who they are. He meets her gaze steadily, not even for the sake of peace. Alira studies him, this Alpha King, who was supposed to be a monster made of power and cruelty. All she sees is a man who looks as tired as she feels. You've refused the right before, she says. Why? Lucien is quiet for a long moment. Then, 5 years ago, the council presented me with my first bride, a girl named Saren Vale, 16 years old. Terrified. she cried through the entire ceremony. His voice goes flat. I stopped the rite halfway through. Told them I wouldn't mark someone who looked at me like I was death itself. What happened to her? I sent her home. The council was furious. Said I'd insulted the old laws, weakened the throne. He exhales slowly. They've tried 4 more times since then. Each girl younger and more frightened than the last. So you've been waiting for someone who chose me, not the crown. He looks at her. Or at least someone who didn't look like they'd rather die than stand beside me. The wolf shifts closer to the fire, and Elira runs her fingers through its fur absently. The council will push harder now, she says. Won't they? Yes. And if I can't control this power, if I can't stop it next time, then I'll teach you. Lucien's voice is firm. This sanctuary responds to you because your blood recognizes it. The deeper we go into these caves, the more the old protections will wake. We can use that. Elira looks at the frost patterns glowing faintly on the walls. How deep does this place go? I don't know. These sanctuaries were built by the first Alpha Kings to protect their mates from external control. Each one is different. He stands, moving to examine the carved symbols more closely. But if this one is intact, there should be a ritual chamber somewhere below. Ritual chamber? A place where bonds were made, the old way. Without council interference. Without chains. Elira's pulse quickens. I mean, Lucien says carefully, that if you decide you want the protection of a mate bond on your terms, not theirs, there's a way to do it that won't give the council any control over you. The weight of that hangs in the air between them. And if I don't want to be bonded at all, then we find another way to protect you. He turns to face her fully. I'm not here to force your hand, Elira. I'm here because leaving you to face this alone is unconscionable. She believes him. She doesn't want to, but she does. All right, she says quietly. Show me how deep this sanctuary goes. Lucien leads her deeper into the mountain, lantern in one hand, the wolf padding silently at their heels. The passage slopes downward, twisting through chambers carved with symbols that glow faintly as they pass. Some of the carvings are words in an old language. Others are images. Wolves running beneath a full moon, hands pressed together in binding, a woman crowned in ice. Elira trails her fingers along the wall, and frost blooms under her touch, illuminating the path ahead. It's responding to you, Lucien says, glancing back at her. The sanctuary knows you belong here. They descend for what feels like hours, the air growing warmer instead of colder the deeper they go. Finally, the passage opens into a vast chamber that takes Elira's breath away. The ceiling arches high above them, covered in ice that glows with its own internal light blue and silver and pale gold. In the center of the chamber sits a stone basin, waist-high, filled with water so clear it looks like liquid glass. Around it, the floor is carved with an intricate circle of runes that pulse softly. This is it, Lucien says quietly. The heart of the sanctuary. Elira steps forward, drawn to the basin. When she looks into the water, she sees not her reflection but something deeper. Images flickering like memories that aren't hers. Women with frost in their hair, men with golden eyes. Ceremonies conducted under moonlight with nothing but choice and trust between the people binding themselves together. The original rite. She breathes. Yes. Lucien moves to stand beside her. No council. No witnesses to enforce their version of tradition. Just 2 people choosing each other freely. Elira looks up at him. Have you ever... No. His answer is immediate. I've never brought anyone here. Never offered this. Why me? Because when you touched that wolf, I felt something I've spent 5 years waiting for. He holds her gaze. Recognition. Not of power or politics, but of rightness. Her heart hammers against her ribs. I barely know you. I know. I'm not asking you to decide anything now. He steps back, giving her space. But you should know what's possible, what the council has been trying to prevent. Before Elira can respond, the wolf's ears prick forward. It growls low, facing the passage they came through. Lucien's hand goes to the blade at his hip. We're not alone. Footsteps echo from above, multiple sets, moving fast. They found the sanctuary entrance, Lucien says grimly. We need to move. Where? Deeper. There are other passages, but before they can run, figures pour into the chamber. 12 hunters, all armed, all wearing the council's silver insignia, and at their head, dressed in formal robes, is Merrick Voss, Elira's father. He takes in the scene his daughter standing beside the Alpha King in the heart of a forbidden sanctuary, and his expression hardens. So it's true, Merrick says coldly. You've been hiding here, refusing your duty, consorting with... He looks at Lucien, with barely concealed contempt. With the very man you were meant to serve. I don't serve anyone, Alira says, finding her voice. And I'm not going back. You don't have a choice, girl. The council has authorized your retrieval by any means necessary. He nods to the hunters. Take her. The hunters move forward. Lucien steps between them and Alira, power radiating from him in waves that make the air shimmer. Touch her, he says softly, and I'll show you why Alpha Kings don't need council approval to enforce their will. Merrick's jaw tightens. You're threatening council-sanctioned enforcers? That's treason. Call it what you like. Lucien's eyes flash gold. She stays with me. For a moment, everything hangs in balance. Then Merrick smiles, cold and calculating. You really don't understand, do you? He pulls a rolled parchment from his robes, tosses it toward Lucien. That's a binding contract signed 3 years ago. My daughter's life, her power, her blood, all legally transferred to the council in exchange for land and protection. She's not yours to protect, Alpha King. She's theirs to use. The parchment lands at Lucien's feet. He doesn't look down. Contracts signed under coercion are void. She was 14 when I signed it. Legally, she had no say. Merrick's smile widens. And according to council law, her consent is irrelevant until she reaches majority at 20. She's 19. The contract stands. Alira feels cold spread through her chest. You sold me when I was 14? I secured your future. Merrick corrects. And our family's position. You sold your daughter like livestock, Lucien says, voice deadly quiet. I made a practical decision for the good of... He doesn't finish. Alira's hands slam into the stone floor, and the entire chamber erupts with ice. Frost explodes outward from her in a shockwave, coating everything in crystalline armor. The hunters freeze mid-step, weapons locked in ice-sheathed hands. The basin overflows, water turning to solid ice that crawls up the walls in jagged spires. Only Lucien and the wolf are untouched, protected by some instinct in her power that recognizes them as safe. Merrick stumbles back, boots slipping on ice, eyes wide with shock and finally fear. Alira rises slowly, frost spiraling around her hands, her hair lifting in an unfelt wind. Her eyes are white-blue, glowing with the same light as the sanctuary ceiling. You sold me, she says, and her voice echoes with layers she doesn't recognize. Traded me like I was nothing, like I belonged to you. Alira, Merrick's voice shakes. Daughter, please. I'm not your daughter anymore. The ice spreads further, creeping toward him. I'm the weapon you tried to give away, and I'm taking myself back. The temperature drops so sharply that breath turns to fog, and the hunter's lips turn blue. Lucien moves to her side, not touching her but close enough that she feels his presence like an anchor. Alira, he says quietly. You can stop. You've made your point. Have I? She looks at her father, still backing away. Or should I finish what he started when he put my name on that contract? If you kill him, you prove the council right. They'll say Frostborn are too dangerous to live free. Lucien's voice is steady, calm. Don't give them that ammunition. The glow in her eyes flickers. He deserves many things, but you don't deserve the weight of his death. Lucien finally reaches out, his hand hovering near her shoulder. Let him go. Let them all see what happens when they try to cage you. Alira's breathing is ragged, her power swirling around her like a storm barely leashed. Then, slowly, she pulls it back. The ice stops spreading. The temperature stabilizes. Her eyes fade from glowing white to their natural color. The hunters remain frozen in place, but they're no longer in danger. Alira turns to her father, and her voice is quiet now, but harder than steel. If you come for me again, I won't stop. Do you understand? Merrick nods frantically, all his arrogance stripped away. Get out of my sanctuary. He flees, the hunters thawing enough to stumble after him, leaving weapons and dignity behind. When they're gone, the chamber falls into silence, broken only by dripping water and Alira's shaky breathing. She sways on her feet, and Lucien catches her before she falls. I've got you, he murmurs, lowering her to sit on the edge of the basin. You're all right. I almost killed him, but you didn't. I wanted to. That's human. He crouches in front of her, meeting her eyes. You had every right to want that. But you chose something harder. You chose mercy. Alira laughs weakly. It doesn't feel like mercy. It never does. He brushes a strand of hair from her face, the gesture so gentle it makes her throat tight. But it was the right choice. She looks at him, this man who was supposed to be her captor, her nightmare. Why are you helping me? Because someone should have been helping you all along. His thumb traces the edge of her jaw, barely a touch. And because when I saw you in this cave, saving a dying wolf with your bare hands, I knew I was looking at someone stronger than any alpha I've ever met. The air between them shifts, charged with something that has nothing to do with magic. Alira's pulse quickens. Lucien, the wolf nudges between them, breaking the moment, and they both step back. We should go, Lucien says, voice rougher than before. They'll regroup, come back with more. Where? Deeper into the sanctuary? There are chambers they won't be able to reach without your bloodline to open them. He offers his hand. Trust me? Alira looks at his hand for a long moment. Then she takes it. Chapter 5. The Bond Rewritten. They travel through passages that spiral deeper into the mountain's heart, following corridors that only reveal themselves when Alira touches the walls. The frost under her fingers acts like a key, unlocking doors sealed for centuries. The wolf leads them unerringly, as if it knows this place. How does he know where to go? Alira asks. He's pack-bonded to me, Lucien explains. And this sanctuary was built by my bloodline. He can feel the path the same way I can. Your bloodline built this place? Not me personally, my ancestors. The first Alpha Kings, before the Council corrupted the bonds into tools of control. He glances at her. Your bloodline protected it. Frostborn magic sealed these chambers. That's why it responds to you. They emerge into another vast space. This one dominated by a massive stone arch carved with intricate patterns. Beyond the arch, darkness. Alira approaches cautiously. What is this? A threshold. Lucien stands beside her. Beyond this point, only those who are freely bonded can pass together. It's the sanctuary's final protection. Bonded how? The old way. With choice and trust, not force and chains. Alira stares into the darkness beyond the arch. What's on the other side? Records. History the Council has tried to erase. Proof that the right of claiming was never meant to bind power. It was meant to share it equally. He turns to her. If we can reach those records, we can challenge the Council's authority. Dismantle the system they've built on lies. But we can't pass through without a bond, yes. The weight of that settles over them. You said before, Alira says slowly, that there was a way to create a bond on our own terms. There is. Lucien's voice is careful. The original rite, performed here in the sanctuary, without witnesses or council control. It creates a partnership, not ownership, equal sharing of power, not theft of it. And if I said yes, his eyes find hers, intense and searching, then I would take it as the greatest honor of my life. But Alira, he steps closer. I need you to understand what you'd be choosing. Not obligation, not escape, just me. Her breath catches. I don't love you. I know. His honesty is disarming. I don't love you either. Not yet. But I respect you. I trust you. And I believe we could build something real, if given the chance. That's not very romantic. No. His mouth curves slightly. But it's honest. And after everything you've survived, I thought you might value honesty more than pretty promises. Alira looks at him, really looks at him. Not the Alpha King of stories, but the man who fought his own hunters to protect her, who taught her to control power she didn't know she had, who offered her choices when everyone else tried to steal them. If we do this, she says slowly, I want things written down, agreed upon, not left to assumptions, such as, my power stays mine. You don't command it, control it, or claim authority over how I use it. Agreed. I won't be kept in a palace like a decoration. I go where I choose, when I choose. Agreed. And this bond, if it doesn't work, if we can't build something real, there has to be a way to undo it. Lucien's expression grows serious. The old rite is permanent. Once made, the bond can't be broken without killing both parties. Alira's stomach drops. But, he continues, it's also dormant until actively maintained. Meaning if we choose to live separate lives, the bond goes quiet. Present but not binding. He meets her gaze steadily. You could walk away, Alira. I wouldn't stop you. You'd let me go? I'd let you choose. Every day. His voice softens. That's the difference between this and what the council wanted to do to you. She searches his face for deception, for the trap, finds nothing but steady, patient sincerity. All right, she says finally. Show me how it's done. Lucien leads her back to the ritual chamber with the stone basin. The water has refrozen from her earlier outburst, but when she touches the basin's edge, it melts instantly, becoming liquid again. The rite is simple, Lucien explains. No elaborate ceremony, no witnesses, just two people making a vow and sealing it with blood. Blood, a symbolic cut, palm to palm. The sanctuary recognizes intention more than anything else. He pulls a small silver knife from his belt. It won't hurt more than a pinch. Alira swallows hard. And then we speak the words. Old language, but I'll translate. Basically, we vow to stand together as equals, to share power and protection, to choose each other freely. He looks at her. Are you ready? 7. No, she admits. But I don't think I'll ever be completely ready. So let's do it anyway. Lucien's smile is small but genuine, brave. Desperate, she corrects. That too. He holds out his right hand, palm up. Alira places her hand over his, matching position. The knife is sharp and quick. A thin line of blood wells up on her palm, mirrored on his. When he presses their hands together, she feels the sting, then warmth spreading up her arm. Lucien begins to speak in a language that sounds like winter, wind, and wolf song. Vaskertal morath senvaila. The words echo in the chamber, and the runes around the basin begin to glow. What does it mean? Alira asks. I choose you as my equal. He translates softly, then continues. Keleth mar ashana velkorim. I offer you my strength and my protection. Druvar sentaliem, markrosha. I bind my life to yours in freedom, not chains. The glow intensifies, crawling up from the basin to spiral around their joined hands. Now you, Lucien prompts. Repeat after me. Vaskertal morath senvela. Alira's voice shakes, but she speaks the words. Vaskertal morath senvela. The frost under her skin flares bright, meeting the golden light from Lucien's power. Keleth marashana velkorim. Keleth marashana velkorim. The two lights twist together, ice and fire, creating something new. Druvarsen taliem markrosha. Druvarsen taliem markrosha. The chamber fills with blinding light, and Alira feels something snap into place deep in her chest, not painful, but present. Like a thread connecting her heart to his, thrumming with awareness. When the light fades, their hands are no longer bleeding. Instead, matching marks have appeared on their palms, a pattern of frost and flame intertwined, glowing faintly. Lucien's eyes are wide. Did you feel? Yes, Alira breathes. I feel you, your heartbeat, your presence, the bond. He stares at their joined hands. It's stronger than I expected. She tries to pull away, testing, and the bond hums but doesn't hurt. When she steps back, she still feels him there, a warm, steady presence at the edge of her awareness. It's not overwhelming, she says, surprised. It shouldn't be. Not the old way. Lucien flexes his hand, examining the mark. We're bonded, but still separate. You're still you. Alira touches the mark on her palm, feeling the warmth beneath her fingers. So now what? Now, Lucien says, turning toward the stone arch. We see if the sanctuary recognizes our bond. They approach the arch together. This time, when they step through side by side, the darkness beyond parts like a curtain. The wolf follows them through, and they find themselves in a library carved from living stone, filled with shelves of scrolls and books that glow with preservation magic. The records. Lucien breathes. They're all here. Alira moves to the nearest shelf, pulling down a scroll. The text is old but legible. Accounts of the original rites, descriptions of how Frostborn and Alphas used to work together as equals, treaties signed between bloodlines based on mutual respect rather than subjugation. This is what the Council has been hiding, she says. This is what they destroyed everywhere else, Lucien corrects. But they couldn't touch the sanctuaries. Only bonded pairs could enter, and they'd eliminated all the free bonds centuries ago. He looks at her. Until now. Alira pulls down another scroll, then another. Each one confirms what Lucien told her. The modern rite of claiming is a perversion. The original bonds were partnerships, not chains. We can use this, she says. Challenge the Council's authority. Show everyone. That they've been lying for 300 years. Yes. Lucien joins her, scanning the texts. But it will mean war, Alira. The council won't give up power easily. I don't care. Her voice is hard. They tried to erase my entire bloodline. They tried to chain me before I even knew what I was. They deserve to fall. Lucien finishes. I agree. But we need allies. Evidence alone won't be enough. Then we find allies. We will. He places a hand on her shoulder, grounding. But first we rest. You've used more power today than most Frostborn use in a year. You're exhausted. As if his words made it real. Alira suddenly feels the weight of everything crashing down on her. Her legs shake, and Lucien catches her before she falls. I've got you, he murmurs, lifting her easily. There's a safe room deeper in. We'll rest there. The council can't reach us here. The sanctuary is warded now that we're bonded. He carries her through passages lit by glowing frost, the wolf padding beside them. You're safe, Alira. I promise. She wants to protest, to insist she can walk, but her body won't cooperate. Instead, she lets her head rest against his shoulder and closes her eyes. The last thing she feels before sleep takes her is the steady thrum of the bond between them, warm and reassuring. Chapter 6. The World Above. Alira wakes to warmth and soft blankets. For a disorienting moment, she thinks she's back in her father's house, that everything was a dream. Then she feels the mark on her palm pulse faintly, and memory floods back. The sanctuary, the rite, the bond. Lucien. She sits up slowly, finding herself in a small chamber carved from smooth stone. Frost patterns decorate the walls, glowing softly to provide light. The wolf is curled at the foot of her sleeping pallet, and Lucien sits nearby, reading through one of the ancient scrolls. He looks up when she moves. How do you feel? Like I was hit by an avalanche. She flexes her hands, testing. The mark on her palm glimmers. How long was I asleep? Most of a day. He sets the scroll aside. Your body needed time to recover. Using that much power without training takes a toll. Alira touches the mark absently. I can feel you, even now. It's strange, but not unpleasant, she considers. No, just present, like knowing someone's in the next room. That's the bond. It will fade into the background as you get used to it. He stands, moving to sit beside her. But it also means I'll know if you're in danger, and you'll know if I am. Have you felt anything? From me? Exhaustion. Some fear. A lot of determination. His mouth curves slightly. You're stubborn even in your sleep. Despite everything, Alira almost smiles. Is that going to be a problem? Not for me. He reaches out, brushes a strand of hair from her face. The gesture is becoming familiar, though it might be for the council. The mention of the council sobers them both. They'll come for us, Alira says. Won't they? Eventually, but not immediately. Lucien pulls back, giving her space. Merrick and the hunters will have reported what happened. The council will need time to decide how to respond. What are our options? We stay here, hidden, and hope they leave us alone. Or, he meets her eyes. We take the fight to them. With what? There are 2 of us and dozens of them. 2 of us, and the truth. Lucien gestures to the library beyond. Everything in those records contradicts the council's authority. If we can get that information to the other packs, the human courts, even the common people, the council's power will crumble. They'll kill us first. They'll try. He doesn't deny it. But we have advantages they don't expect. Your power, the sanctuary's protection, and the fact that our bond makes us legally untouchable under the old laws they claim to uphold. Alira processes that, because we're bonded the original way. Exactly. If they move against us, they're admitting the old rights have authority, which means they're admitting the modern right is false. He leans forward. We've checkmated them, Alira. They just don't know it yet. Hope flickers in her chest, small but growing. So we go public. We go public. He nods, but carefully. With allies in place first. Who would ally with us? The Northern Packs, for one. They've never trusted the Council. The Frostborn descendants who've been in hiding if we can find them. And possibly some of the human courts who are tired of Council manipulation. That's a lot of variables. It's a war. Lucien's expression is serious. I won't lie to you, Alira. This will be dangerous. People will die. We might die. But if we do nothing, then the council continues erasing bloodlines like yours, continues forcing bonds that enslave rather than unite, continues... He stops, jaw tight. Continues doing what they did to Saren Vale and every girl after her. Alira thinks of the girls her father mentioned, the ones who dreamed of being chosen. How many of them knew what they were actually signing up for? We fight, she says quietly. We take the truth to everyone who'll listen, and we burn the council's lies to ash. Lucien's eyes gleam with something fierce and approving. Agreed. But first, Alira adds, you teach me to control this power properly. I can't fight if I'm going to freeze everyone around me every time I get scared. Deal. He stands, offering his hand. Come on. There's a training chamber deeper in the sanctuary. She takes his hand, and the bond hums between them, warm and steady. The training chamber is vast, with high ceilings and walls reinforced with layered stone. Frost patterns cover every surface, dormant but ready. The sanctuary will respond to you here, Lucien explains. You can practice without worrying about hurting anyone or destroying anything important. Alira moves to the center of the room. What do I do? Start small. Focus on your palm, the one with the mark. Feel the cold there. She closes her eyes, concentrating. The mark tingles, and frost begins to bloom across her skin. Good. Now push it outward, just a little. Don't force it. Guide it. Alira exhales slowly, and frost spirals from her hand in delicate tendrils, beautiful and controlled. Excellent. Lucien's voice is encouraging. Now pull it back. That's harder. The frost resists, wanting to spread. But she focuses, and gradually the tendrils retreat, fading back into her skin. You're a natural, Lucien says. Most Frostborn need months to achieve that level of control. Maybe it's the bond, Alira suggests. Your presence feels stabilizing. It works both ways. He moves closer. Try pushing the frost toward me, but stop before it touches. She does as he asks, sending ice spiraling toward him. When it gets within a foot of his body, it curves away on its own, repelled by his alpha aura. The bond recognizes me as safe, Lucien explains. Your power won't hurt me unless you consciously will it to. That's convenient. It's necessary. In the old days, bonded pairs fought together. If your power could hurt your mate accidentally, partnerships wouldn't last long. They practice for hours. Alira learning to shape frost into walls, spears, shields. She learns to freeze water in midair, to create footholds of ice on sheer surfaces, to sense approaching threats through vibrations in frozen ground. By the time Lucien calls a halt, she's exhausted but exhilarated. You learn fast, he says, handing her a water skin. I'm motivated. She drinks deeply. How do you think the council will respond when we surface? With force. First, they'll try to capture or kill us before we can spread the truth. And then, if we survive the initial attack, they'll try to discredit us. Call me a traitor, call you a dangerous rogue, Frostborn. He sits beside her on the chamber floor. They'll use every tool they have to silence us. So we need to be louder than them, much louder. He looks at her. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we step out of the sanctuary, there's no going back to being hidden. Alira thinks of her father's face when she rejected his bargain. Of the hunters trying to drag her back to a fate she never chose. Of all the girls who came before her, terrified and powerless. I'm ready, she says firmly. Let them come. Lucien's smile is sharp and proud. Then let's give them a war they'll never forget. They spend another day in the sanctuary, gathering records and preparing. Alira copies key passages from the ancient scrolls, creating documentation they can distribute. Lucien sends the wolf out through hidden passages to scout the valley below, gathering information about council movements. When the wolf returns, it brings troubling news. Marek has gathered a force of over 50 hunters and enforcers. They're camped at the base of the mountain, waiting. They're not coming in after us, Lucien observes. They're trying to wait us out. They think we'll starve, Alira says, or get desperate enough to make mistakes. He studies the wolf's report images shared through their pack bond. But they've made a mistake of their own. What? They brought too many people. Word is spreading in the valley. Villagers are asking questions about why the council needs an army to retrieve one runaway girl. Alira's pulse quickens. So we have an audience. Exactly. Lucien's eyes gleam. When we emerge, everyone will be watching. If we do this right, the council won't dare move against us publicly. And if we do it wrong, we die spectacularly. He says it so matter-of-factly that Alira almost laughs. You're very reassuring. I'm realistic. He turns to her, expression serious. But I also believe we can do this. You're the strongest Frostborn I've ever seen, and I've been preparing for this confrontation for 5 years. Together. He takes her hand, the bond thrumming between them. Together, we might actually win. Alira squeezes his hand. Then let's not keep our audience waiting. They emerge from the sanctuary at dawn, when the light is soft and the valley is waking. Alira wears simple traveling clothes, but she's added one touch, a cloak lined with frost patterns that glow faintly in the early light. Lucien wears his formal alpha regalia, dark fur and silver clasps, marking him unmistakably as the king. The wolf walks between them, head high. The hunters see them first. Shouts echo across the camp, and within minutes, Merrick and a dozen council members are standing at the base of the mountain path, surrounded by armed enforcers. Alira and Lucien descend slowly, letting everyone get a good look. By the time they reach level ground, half the village has gathered to watch. Farmers, traders, families all curious about the commotion. Merrick steps forward, flanked by council elders. Alira Frost, you are in violation of the binding contract and the right of claiming. Surrender yourself immediately. No, Alira says simply. You don't have a choice. She has every choice. Lucien interrupts, voice carrying across the crowd. As do I, and we've made ours. He raises his hand, showing the mark on his palm. Alira mirrors the gesture, her matching mark glowing in response. Gasps ripple through the gathered villagers. We are bonded, Lucien announces, under the original rite. By the old laws that predate the council's authority, our bond is sealed and cannot be challenged. One of the council elders, a woman named Aira Thorne, steps forward, face pale. That's impossible. The old rites require a sanctuary, Alira finishes, which still exists, protected by Frostborn magic and Alpha bloodline wards. We have the records to prove everything you've been hiding for 3 centuries. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Confusion, curiosity, doubt. Merrick's face goes red. This is treason, lies. Then let us present our evidence publicly, Lucien says calmly. Open hearing. Every pack, every village, every court. Let them decide who's lying. The council members exchange panicked glances. An open hearing is exactly what they can't afford. You will return with us, Aira says, trying to regain control. Both of you. The council will review your claims. Behind closed doors? Alira's voice is sharp. So you can silence us quietly? So justice can be served? Justice? Lucien's laugh is cold. You've spent 3 centuries erasing bloodlines and enslaving mates. You don't get to talk about justice. The crowd's murmurs grow louder, more agitated. Enough, Marek shouts. Hunters, take them! The enforcers move forward, weapons raised. Alira's hand touches the ground, and frost explodes outward in a perfect circle, stopping inches from the villagers but creating an impenetrable wall between them and the hunters. The crowd gasps, stumbling back. We're not your prisoners, Alira says, voice ringing clear. And we're not your weapons. We're free people, bonded freely, and we're taking back the truth you tried to bury. Lucien's eyes flash gold, and his alpha presence rolls out like thunder, forcing every wolf in the vicinity, including the hunters' bonded animals, to lower their heads in submission. Anyone who tries to take us, he says quietly, answers to me, not as council enforcers, as enemies of the throne. The hunters freeze, caught between orders and instinct. Stand down, one of them mutters. Then another. Within moments, half the force has retreated, unwilling to fight their own Alpha King. The council elders look furious and helpless. Alira turns to the gathered villagers. The council has been lying to you. About the rights, about bonds, about which bloodlines have power and why. We have proof, and we're going to share it with everyone. She meets the eyes of women in the crowd, girls her own age. No one else should be forced into chains wearing the disguise of ceremony. Silence falls. Then, from the back of the crowd, a young woman's voice calls out, "Show us." Another voice joins. "We want to see the proof." More voices, building into a chorus. The council elders realize they've lost control. Aira Thorne raises her hands. "Very well. Open hearing. 1 week from today, in the capital city. Present your evidence, and we'll present ours." "Agreed," Lucien says. "But the hearing is public. No closed sessions, no private deliberations. Fine. Era's smile is cold. But know this, if you're lying, the penalty is execution for both of you. And if you're telling the truth, she pauses. The penalty may be the same. The council protects itself. We'll take that risk, Alira says. The council members retreat, taking Merrick and most of the hunters with them. The remaining enforcers disperse slowly, uncertain. The villagers linger, staring at Alira and Lucian with a mixture of awe and fear. An older woman steps forward cautiously. Is it true? The rites are false? Not false, Alira says gently. Corrupted. The original bonds were made between equals. What the council does now, it's theft disguised as tradition. My daughter was claimed last year, the woman says, voice breaking. She hasn't smiled since. Lucian's expression darkens. What's her name? Kaya Rowan. After the hearing, Lucian says quietly, if she wants to break her bond, we'll help her. I promise. The woman's eyes fill with tears. She nods once and retreats into the crowd. Others approach with questions, stories, grief they've been carrying for years. Alira and Lucian answer what they can. Document names, make promises they're not sure they can keep. By the time the crowd disperses, the sun is high overhead. Alira sags against Lucian, exhausted again. 1 week. 1 week, he agrees. We need to move fast. Gather allies, prepare our evidence, shore up defenses. Where do we start? The northern packs. They've always been resistant to council control. He looks down at her. Can you travel? I'll have to. She straightens, determination overriding exhaustion. Let's go. The wolf leads them north, away from the valley, toward territories where the council's reach is weaker. Behind them, Vale Hollow buzzes with rumors that will spread like wildfire. The Alpha King has bonded freely. The Frost Girl can command ice. The council is lying. War is coming. Chapter 7. The Hearing. 6 days later, they arrive in the capital city, a sprawling fortress built into mountainside, equal parts palace and prison. The streets are packed with people from every pack, every territory, every corner of the realm. Word of the hearing has spread faster than anyone anticipated. Alira and Lucian enter through the main gates, with a contingent of northern pack leaders who've pledged their support. The wolf walks at their heels, and Frost trails faintly in Alira's wake, a visible reminder of what she is. The council has prepared the grand hall for the hearing, a massive circular chamber with tiered seating rising on all sides. At the center, 2 platforms face each other across empty space. One for the council, one for the accused. Accused. That's what they are now. Alira climbs onto their platform, Lucian beside her. The hall is filled to capacity, with hundreds more gathered outside. The air thrums with tension and anticipation. The council elders take their places opposite. Era Thorne, Alden Price, and 7 others. Merrick Voss sits among them, having been granted temporary council status for this hearing. Era stands, and the hall falls silent. We are gathered, she announces, to address the claims made by Lucian Verrick, Alpha King, and Alira Frost, daughter of Merrick Voss. They allege that the right of claiming, as practiced for 300 years, is false and corrupt. She pauses. This is a serious accusation. If proven, it undermines the foundation of our society. If disproven, it is treason of the highest order. We understand the stakes, Lucian says, voice carrying effortlessly. Then present your evidence. Lucian produces a scroll from his cloak, one of the originals they retrieved from the sanctuary. He holds it up for all to see. This is a record from the first Alpha Council, dated 287 years before the current calendar. It describes the original rite of bonding. He begins to read, Let it be known that no mate shall be bound without consent freely given. Let it be known that bonds made under coercion are void. Let it be known that power shared between equals strengthens the pack, while power stolen weakens it unto death. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Era's expression doesn't change. Anyone can forge a document. True, Alira says, stepping forward. Which is why we didn't bring just one. She gestures, and the northern pack leaders begin distributing copies, dozens of them, printed from scrolls they spent the last week reproducing. The documents spread through the crowd like leaves in wind. These are authenticated by the sanctuary wards, Lucian explains. Magic older than the council itself. They can be verified by any Frostborn or Alpha bloodline. The truth is written into them at a level deeper than ink. An elder from the Eastern Pax stands, examining his copy. He's right. I can feel it. This is genuine. Another voice. It contradicts everything we've been taught. Exactly, Alira says. Because the council changed the rites. Slowly, over generations, they altered the words, added binding clauses, removed protections, until what we have now is a tool of control, not a sacred bond. Lies! Merrick shouts, rising. This girl fled her duty and corrupted the Alpha King with her. Sit down, Merrick, Lucien says, voice dropping into a command that makes every wolf in the hall flinch. You sold your daughter for land and status. You have no moral authority here. Marek sits, face mottled with rage. Era regains control. Even if these documents are genuine, they represent an old system. Laws evolve. The modern rite is more efficient, more organized, more enslaving. Alira interrupts. Call it what it is. You bind mates to alphas in ways that steal their power, their choices, their lives, and you do it because it makes them easier to control. We do it, Era says coldly, because unchecked power is dangerous. Frostborn like you could freeze entire cities. Alphas could tear armies apart. The rites create balance. No, Lucien says. They create inequality. They give you leverage over everyone powerful enough to threaten your authority. And what would you have us do? Alden Price speaks up. Return to chaos? Let bloodlines war unchecked? Return to freedom, Alira says. Let people choose their bonds. Let power be shared, not stolen. Create systems of accountability, not chains. Accountability? Era laughs sharply. Like the accountability you showed when you ran from your duty? When you hid in a cave rather than face the right? I ran from slavery, Alira says, voice hard. And I'd do it again. So you admit you're a coward. The word lands like a slap. The crowd reacts, some nodding, others protesting. Alira feels anger rise, feels frost spiraling up her arms. Lucien's hand touches her shoulder, grounding. The bond pulses between them, steady and sure. She takes a breath and speaks clearly. I'm not a coward. I'm a woman who refused to let you erase her, and I'm not the only one. She turns to address the crowd. How many of you know someone who is bonded against their will? How many have seen the fear in a girl's eyes when her name is called for the right? How many have watched mates grow hollow and silent as their power drains away? Silence. Then hands begin to rise. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Era's confidence falters. This is what your efficiency creates, Alira says. Suffering, fear, loss, and you call it tradition. We call it survival, Era snaps. Without the rights, bloodlines would tear each other apart. We've maintained peace for 3 centuries. You've maintained your own power, Lucien corrects, and called it peace. Prove it, Era challenges. Prove the modern rite harms those it binds. Alira looks at Lucien. He nods. Bring forth Kaya Rowan, Alira calls. There's confusion, then movement in the crowd. The young woman from Vale Hollow, the one whose mother spoke to them, is escorted forward. She's thin, pale, her eyes dull. Kaya was bonded 8 months ago, Alira says. To an alpha twice her age. She had no choice in the matter. Era waves dismissively. All bonds require adjustment. Show them your mark, Alira says gently to Kaya. The girl hesitates, then rolls up her sleeve. The bonding mark on her arm is black and diseased-looking, spreading like rot across her skin. Gasps echo through the hall. That's what happens, Alira says, when a bond is forced. When there's no consent, no balance, the mark corrupts. It poisons. She's sick, Era insists. That's not the right's fault. It's exactly the right's fault, Lucien says. The original bonds protected both parties. Modern bonds only protect the alpha. Mates like Kaya carry the full burden. Kaya's voice, barely a whisper. It hurts, all the time. The hall erupts in noise. Questions, accusations, demands. Era tries to regain control, but the crowd is turning. Then Merrick stands again, desperate. This proves nothing. The girl is weak. Some mates simply aren't strong enough. Then break her bond, Alira says. If it's legitimate, if it's sacred, breaking it should be impossible without killing both parties. But if it's what we say it is a theft disguised as tradition, then it can be undone. You can't, Era starts. I can, Alira says. She steps down from the platform, approaching Kaya. With your permission, Kaya looks at her with desperate hope. Please. Elira takes the girl's arm gently, placing her palm over the corrupted mark. Frost blooms from her hand, crawling over the black pattern. She can feel the wrongness of the bond, the way it's draining Kaya's life force to feed power back to her alpha. This will hurt, Elira warns. But only for a moment. Kaya nods. Elira closes her eyes, focusing. She finds the threads of the bond and begins pulling, unraveling, freezing each strand until it snaps. Kaya cries out, but doesn't pull away. After a long minute, the black mark shatters like ice under a hammer. It falls away in dark flakes, leaving clean skin beneath. Kaya gasps, and color floods back into her face. She looks at her arm in wonder. It's gone, she breathes. I can't feel him anymore. I can't feel the weight. The hall falls silent. Then Kaya laughs a sound of pure relief and throws her arms around Elira. The crowd erupts in chaos. Half the people are cheering. The other half are shouting questions at the council. Several more young people push forward, begging Elira to break their bonds too. Era's face is white with fury. You've just proven you're dangerous. You broke a sacred bond. I broke a chain, Elira says, turning to face her. And I'll break every corrupted bond in this hall if that's what it takes to prove you're liars. You're declaring war on the entire system. No, Lucien says, moving to Elira's side. We're declaring that the system needs to change. Return to the original rights. Let people choose. Or we'll tear down what you've built and start over. You can't. You don't have the authority. I'm the Alpha King, Lucien says quietly. And she's the strongest Frostborn in 3 centuries. Together we have all the authority we need. The bond mark on his palm flares bright. Elira's matches it. The 2 lights illuminate the hall like twin stars. The old laws are clear, Lucien continues. A freely bonded pair has the right to challenge council authority if that authority contradicts foundational principles. We invoke that right. Era looks around wildly, seeing support crumbling. This is madness. This is justice, Elira says. Finally, one of the other council members, an older man named Torin Gray, stands slowly. Perhaps it's time we reviewed the rights, made adjustments. Torin, Era hisses. Look around, Era, Torin says tiredly. We've lost. The people won't accept the old way anymore. He turns to Lucien and Elira. What do you propose? A new council, Lucien says. One that includes representatives from every bloodline, not just the ones you approve. A return to the original rights, with oversight to ensure they're performed correctly. An immediate review of all existing bonds to identify which are corrupted and offer release to those who want it. That will take years, Torin says. Then we start now. Torin looks at the other council members. One by one, they nod reluctant, but cornered. Only Ira and Marek remain defiant. I'll see you both executed for this, Era says, voice shaking with rage. You can try, Elira says calmly. But I think you'll find that threatening a bonded pair invokes protections even you can't override. Era lunges forward as if to attack, but Lucien's alpha presence slams down like a physical weight. She drops to one knee, unable to move. The hearing is over, Lucien announces. The council will reconvene under new terms. Anyone who refuses to participate in good faith will be removed from power. He releases Ira, who staggers back, breathing hard. Marek tries to slip away in the confusion, but Elira's voice stops him. Father. He turns, face pale. You're removed from the council, effective immediately. Your lands and titles are forfeit. Her voice is cold, and if you ever try to bargain away another life the way you did mine, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. Marek opens his mouth, closes it, then turns and flees. The crowd parts to let him through, silent and judging. When he's gone, the tension finally breaks. People surge forward, some to thank Elira and Lucien, others to beg for help breaking their own bonds, still others just to touch the frost patterns that now cover the entire platform where Elira stands. It takes hours to calm the crowd, to promise help, to organize the changes that need to happen. By the time the hall empties, Elira is swaying on her feet. Lucien catches her. We need to get you somewhere quiet. We did it, she says, half laughing, half crying. We actually did it. You did it, he corrects gently. I just stood beside you. Liar. But she's smiling. We did it together. The bond between them pulses warm and bright, agreement singing through the connection. Come on, Lucien says, lifting her easily. There's a palace suite that's technically mine. We can rest there. What about the council? They'll be too busy fighting among themselves to bother us tonight. He carries her through emptying corridors, the wolf trailing behind. Tomorrow, we start rebuilding. But tonight, we rest. Illyra lets her head rest against his shoulder, exhaustion finally winning. Lucien? Yes? Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. Always, he says quietly. That's what the bond means. I thought the bond was just magic. It started as magic. He looks down at her, expression soft. But it's becoming something else. What? Something real. Illyra's breath catches. She searches his face and sees the truth there. He's not just her ally anymore, not just her partner in rebellion. He's becoming someone who matters, someone she might be falling for. Yeah, she whispers. Something real. He smiles, and it transforms his face from stern to genuinely warm. They reach the palace suite. Lucien settles her on a couch near the fire, tucking blankets around her. The wolf curls up at her feet. Sleep, he says. I'll keep watch. You need sleep too. I will, in a bit. He sits beside her, close enough that she can feel his warmth. First, I want to make sure you're all right. Illyra reaches out, takes his hand. Their marks press together, glowing faintly. I'm more than all right, she says. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Lucien's grip tightens. Me too. They sit in comfortable silence as the fire crackles and the city outside celebrates the beginning of change. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. The council will resist, old enemies will surface, and the work of rebuilding will be exhausting. But tonight, in this quiet moment, Illyra Frost is free. Not because someone gave her freedom, but because she took it. And beside her sits a king who chose to give up control rather than force her hand. Together, they'll reshape their world. Together, they've already begun. 3 months later, the first free rite is performed in the capital. A young couple both choosing each other without family pressure, without council manipulation, stand before witnesses and speak vows that echo the ancient words. When they press their palms together, their bond marks bloom bright and clean, blue and gold, perfectly balanced. Illyra watches from the crowd, Lucien beside her. The wolf has returned to his pack but visits often. A living reminder of the night everything changed. How many bonds have we broken now? Illyra asks. 47, Lucien says, with another 100 requesting review. And the new council? Voted in last week. Representatives from every bloodline, just as we proposed. He looks at her. You should be on it. I've told you I don't want power. You already have power. The council would just give you a voice. Illyra considers. Maybe someday. Right now I'm more useful helping people like Kaya. Fair enough. Lucien's hand finds hers, their marks pressing together. 3 months in, and the bond has settled into something comfortable. Present but not overwhelming. Strong but not confining. And somewhere along the way, between battles and negotiations, and quiet moments stolen between chaos, they've fallen in love. Not the desperate, forced love of corrupted bonds, but the slow, real kind that builds on trust and respect and choosing each other every day. Illyra? Lucien's voice is soft. I love you. She turns to look at him, heart full. I know. I feel it through the bond. That's cheating. Maybe. She smiles. But I'll say it anyway. I love you too. They kiss, soft and sweet. While around them the free rite concludes with cheers and celebration. The girl who hid in a cave to avoid being claimed has become the woman who rewrote the rules of claiming itself. And the Alpha King who spent 5 years refusing to force a bond has found the one person who makes freedom feel like home. Their story isn't finished. There are still enemies to face, systems to rebuild, people to help. But tonight, in this moment, they are exactly what they chose to be. Equal, free, bonded by choice. And that's more powerful than any magic the old world ever knew. If this story of Illyra Frost and Lucien Verrick, the runaway who became a revolutionary, and the Alpha King who chose freedom over control, made you feel something, subscribe to Ariel Romance Library. Because this world has more stories to tell, more bonds to break, and more choices to reclaim.